Welcome everyone to another episode of We Ear Hustling, baby. I am Newbie the Ear Hustler, and tonight's guest is the amazing, talented JustKing Jones. Thank you so much for joining me today, Just. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. What's going on, everybody? Peace.
So, first of all, I discovered you through Camila, who is another amazing artist out of New York. I've interviewed her, love her sound, her voice. Just a really good, sweet person and really, really smart. We had a great conversation during my interview with her. And so she shared the song that she did with you, and I think it's called Call It.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. And I absolutely loved what you did with that. And so, of course, I went through your catalog or your discography, and I was like, oh, okay, you've been doing this for a while. Talk to me a little bit about getting into music, your background in terms of being Jamaican, and we'll go from there. I'm not going to give you too much to start off with, but let's go there.
Yeah, so I got into music as a child in a semi-musical family. My parents were in a gospel choir. Growing up in Jersey, we used to go to the Bronx like every Tuesday and Saturday. My parents were in a gospel choir, and I would just go and sing with them as a little kid. And fast forward a few years, I started playing saxophone at age 8. And that was like my real first introduction to like really playing music. And between learning music in school and in church and the New York jazz scene and all that, that's where I kind of cultivated this like kind of eclectic blend between being a jazz musician, but like also just like, that East Coast sound of R&B and then the Caribbean sound of reggae and dancehall. So if you're wondering why my music sounds the way it does, it's because I'm just all of those things. And every day I was experiencing all of those things in my life.
Mm. Now, what part of the Bronx did you go to church?
Um,
Do you remember?
I don't even remember. I was so young, honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
went to church in Paterson, New Jersey. My
Okay.
grandfather was a pastor. Um, yeah, I would have to like look up that exact address, because I think that church ended up moving.
Okay. And
Yeah.
the reason that I ask is because I was raised in the Bronx, grew up
Okay.
partly in Harlem, and then a little bit of everywhere after that. And so I also used to be in the church, but it was in Harlem. And,
Okay.
I always try to think of all the places that I spoke at because I was also speaking for the church when I was younger. I was heavy into it. So
Okay.
what I find is a lot of musicians, their start begins in the choir, which is always interesting. Their parents are either musicians in the church, musicians in general, and then you guys are kind of brought up in the church. So I want to talk a little bit about the Caribbean side and how you were able to sort of mesh that into this jazz R&B side. Talk to me a little bit about creating that environment.
Yeah. One thing I realized is that I started finding the blend between like modal jazz
Hmm.
and the chords that they were using in modern like dancehall and Afrobeats production.
Hmm.
And this took a while for me to get to that space where I was kind of not saying I was getting away from like bebop jazz or whatever, but I was getting more into just more less chords, and I found that they were using like a lot of similar sounds in the production of the stuff like around 2018 that was coming out in Afrobeats and in dancehall music. So when you hear like the songs I was writing during that period, you're like, oh, okay, I could see why he made the rhythms the way he did, because to me it was just they got so close, the two worlds.
Mm. And I think, for those who are watching and don't know, talk to me a little bit about what moto jazz is.
Yeah, so um if you like let's look at jazz from like the 40s, 50s, there's mad chords, like a chord every two beats, just 251, 251, 251,
Right.
3/6, all that. And when guys like Miles Davis and John Coltrane came around, they're like, nah, we just need two chords. And they could say everything they needed to say. And I noticed a similar evolution in my music and how I approached it. I was like, I felt more free with just two chords. And that used to be a struggle for me to say the most with the least. You know, I used to need a lot of information, but I'm realizing that there's a simplicity in a little bit. Less is more. Yeah.
Yes, you know, and I love the mix that you've created with all of your music. You know, I listen to everything. Like I said, I want to go back to, well, let me start with this. First of all, how did you learn the saxophone?
Yeah, yeah. I learned how to play saxophone in school, really.
Hmm.
Um, when I was 8, you know, taking some like classical lessons, you know, and then picking up clarinet and flute. But I had some like great mentors that played saxophone. Bruce Williams, that's one guy. Um, I grew up around in New Jersey.
Hmm.
Um, Influenced by another saxophone player. His name is Gary Bartz. You know, these guys are still alive and around and making amazing records. And they like really changed how I approach the instrument.
Mm, yeah, I think what happens is too is, you know, you have to have an innate sort of vibe and understanding of music to really, really get into jazz. In my personal opinion, it is not R&B, it is not neo soul, it is not any of that. And so to see how you mix everything together so effortlessly is amazing to me. I'm going to start with the Prophets, right? Let's talk about your time doing that song, because that song reminds me of that Jay Dilla era, Slum Village era of music. And I played that, I think, quite as much as I played Call It, and I'll Fly, and all those others. So talk to me about that.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's actually Jerron Marshall's record.
Hmm.
And on that, I'm pretty much just playing like flutes on that. Like that was my part in the process as like the featured artist on it. But in terms of that, that's a similar thing. Honestly, like even when you said you know, jazz is not really like neo soul and R&B and reggae, I do think they all are the same because it's really just another way of telling the Black experience.
Mm.
No.
Well, yeah,
And
I agree, but it's still, it's, let me rephrase that. It is a whole different vibe.
okay, yeah.
That's what I mean by that. Like, it's just different to me when you add the elements of jazz in a certain way to a neo soul song or an R&B song or even a hip hop song. It changes the dynamic of the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Hmm.
Yeah, but even yeah, when we did Lost Prophets, that was during the pandemic. That was right. I met Jerron Marshall because he's the keyboardist for Black Pumas. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And we did a record, like a remix of their Colors, with Hypnotic Brass Ensemble, and that was during the pandemic. So that's how we met, and like we caught a vibe, and we're like, yo, let's make more records. And that was the birth of that. That's the only song that we've done to this date, but I'm sure there's more. You know, we've been talking about doing some more projects, and we
Yeah.
want to do more. Yeah,
I loved it. And you played the flute. So let's talk about all the instruments you play. So
yeah.
saxophone, flutes, what else you got in your pocket?
Clarinet. I'm looking around. Clarinet, saxophone, flute. Those are like my main instruments, and of course, I sing and I produce as well.
Mhm.
That's pretty much it. Like honestly,
I love
that's
it.
all I need.
Yeah, you're able to do a little bit of everything, and that gives us more to choose from, if you ask me. Um, the other thing I wanted to get into was you touring and doing stuff with Lauryn Hill, Wyclef, working with Bilal, of course, who's a Grammy Award winning musician. But let's start with Lauryn Hill. So, first of all, she's back here in my record collection of stuff that I play. I have many, many records, but that I play frequently to this day. What was it like touring or doing shows with her? Um, you know, she gets a lot of flack for being late. I don't care about that. I care about the music.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
to me about what that vibe was like.
Working with Miss Hill was eye opening on so many levels. Honestly,
Mm.
oh, Well, one thing is her ear for detail. She really knows. Some artists are like, cool, everything is cool, you know. She knows what's going on every instrument. She has an ear and she knows it. She has a vision of exactly how it should sound. She hires like very large bands,
Mm-hmm.
so she knows what the third keyboardist should be playing and what that patch should sound like. You know, she knows when she needs more horns, when she needs a crazy guitar solo. She knows exactly what she wants, and that ear for detail and attention is why she's so great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
catalog is not like a lot of people's,
Mm-hmm.
but that focus and that attention is why her quality is so great. Is because of how focused she is on the on making a masterpiece,
Mm.
and it
Yeah.
shows. And I learned a lot from working with her, and also the eclectic nature. You know, that Jersey thing. You know, so I'm gonna say it's that Jersey thing, but
New, New Jerusalem.
yo, exactly. Um, so all the Caribbean influence in her music is there, hip hop, R&B. It's like it's everything, and to me, that was the biggest thing I took away from it. Is like, dang, because that's really what I'm going for. Is blending everywhere you come from into one sound that's
Mm.
digestible and just true and unique. Because she got a sound,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like it's equally like everything.
Mm.
So to me, that's I've taken a lot from that, and same thing with the Gorillas. You know, she
Mm.
she does it with just her, and the Gorillas is more like an expanded version of that where they have mad features. You know, because I've worked with the Gorillas even more extensively than her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they cater to everybody in one show. You know, but they'll have mad features and guest artists come up in like a different way. So I'm just blessed to like be around my future, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think if you are an astute musician, every performance, every different type of musician and artist that you deal with, you're a sponge, right? You have to absorb and observe and take what you need from each of those in order to propel yourself, further. So that is your future. That is you creating the lane for Just King. And it's important that you understand that, and it's obvious that you do. I mean, you're right. Gorillas is a whole different thing. Imagine having to switch up styles so many times during a performance to accommodate a different type of artist. You've got to be fluid, you've got to be quick, you got to know your stuff. I mean, your ear has to be on point. I can't even imagine the complexity behind all of that.
Exactly. I am a sponge, and I'm blessed. I do think that that's why I'm even in those situations. Obviously, of course, like I'm gonna play the gig and like it's gonna be dope. But for me, I really think that it's more of a blessing of I'm learning how to do it along the way. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I'm fortunate to not only be an artist but to also be a musician, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No,
You
I
know,
totally.
so I take I feel like I'm in school even though I'm working and I'm on stage. You know, and with these people, I'm like, damn, like okay, this is how it's done. That's how I feel after every tour I do with an artist of that caliber. This is how it's done.
Mm-hmm. So, who was the first musician you went out on tour with?
Um, Hypnotic Brass Ensemble was the first. After that, I did Black Star, you know, and then separately did Talib Kweli. Then after that, Yasiin Bey. Um,
Mm.
and
Tell me about Yasiin Bey.
yeah, where do I start? He's
Well, let me say this. I
yeah,
want you to tell me about your interaction with him in terms of the music, and if you were able to connect and bond on that level.
definitely. Oh, I don't even know where to start. He's someone I played with a lot, a lot. Um, and it's that eclectic thing, you know, because although he's like you know, an amazing lyricist and MC. He's just so eclectic and knows how to bring different worlds. Again, like he knows how to bring the jazz world into hip hop and stretch it. And it doesn't take him a long time to put together. He's just like a painter. It doesn't take him a long time to turn something into like the perfect bed for him to land and do his thing on. And
Mm.
I remember once we were in Paris, we're doing I think Jazza Villette. I don't remember. Sorry if I'm butchering the name, the French. Um, but he took a song that I grew up on called Stolen Moments
Hmm.
by Oliver Nelson, a saxophone player. And, you know, it's just a jazz song. And we didn't have a rehearsal. We're just in the dressing room and he's mapping it out like 10 minutes before we're about to go on stage. He's like, all right, y'all, so we're about to do this. And he's like, seriously. Um, he takes the song and then he's like, oh, y'all thought we were going to play like that? No, he's like, we're playing it in halftime. And it's on YouTube. You can just type it in, I think 2019 or something.
Hmm.
And I was like, I was just blown away by his how he's able to take something that I just don't have the mind that he has. And I was blown away by that artistic choice he made backstage. Of course, he did so many other things. Um, and anyways, we get on stage, we play the show, and we do that. It's amazing. And then almost every show, he's just feeling a vibe, and he's like, every song, he's like, saxophone, saxophone. You know, he's pointing at me, putting the mic up next to me, and we're vibing. You know, it's on the internet. You guys could find it if you look it up. And I remember his manager saying like this was like his best show ever. You
Mm.
know, and this is I guess right before the pandemic, so like we're booked for like a whole summer of stuff, and then it all got canceled. You know, and I was of course like super disappointed, but obviously we like kept getting back to it right after the pandemic, and then getting to work with him with the Gorillas as well is a whole nother experience as well,
Mm.
seeing in a different light. I hope I answered that correctly.
Yeah, no, you did. I thought you wanted to
Yeah.
fit. I mean, Yasin, I met Yasin when he was most deaf, obviously, and um, I'm sure I'm a little older than you are, and
I don't think
he,
so.
I think so, but
Okay.
we not gonna put my age on blast.
All right, we don't
Uh,
need to.
but let me say this: I was at a video shoot with the Bush Babies in Brooklyn. That's how long ago I met him,
Okay.
and he was such a nice person, personable, jokey, really a great guy, but also very serious about his gift. And so when I hear you speak of him in this way, I'm not surprised at all. I can envision it so vividly. And I haven't seen him live. I haven't seen him or Talib perform live ever. So that's the next thing, excuse me, that I'm looking to get to is to see them live. More so Yasin. I love Talib too, but there's something about Yasiin Bey that it's like the Twilight Zone. So I'm looking forward to experiencing that. What was the vibe in the audience when he pointed to you and said sax, sax?
Um, I think he was just like we were all in a trance that night, and it's just something that kept working. He was um seeing what the audience was reacting to, and that's what they were reacting to that night. Of course, like the whole performance was amazing. Um, but I think we're just in a vibe that night, and yeah, it was a surreal experience. I think that might have been my second time working with him. That was my second time that particular night, you know, and the rest
Hmm.
is history. Um, he's just a musical genius and he's curious. I've gotten to record with him as well, some stuff that's not out yet,
Hmm.
but like the latest thing is that like and I hope it comes out, but he plays this, I think it's called the kalimba.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah. Go ahead.
and he's been really studying that over the pandemic. And there's
Mm.
some like really spiritual avant-garde type recordings of just horns and him playing kalimba.
Mm.
that I hope comes out, because they're really special, and he's just always searching for the next thing. So I'm grateful that I've been able to be in the studio and see him create like different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I expect nothing less when you said avant-garde. I expect nothing less from Yasin. But now you just said something that made me think, and this is part of your bio, and I wanted to read it, and I wanted to get some more understanding behind it. So you said you want to build a kingdom on earth through a global sound and community, and then impart, which ensures modesty, chastity, long can't even read my home
Suffering.
long suffering health and understanding. Tell me what that means.
Yeah. So, music passes the subconscious. We know that. Or
Hmm.
some people don't know that, actually.
Hmm.
I, as an artist, I know that, and I know how powerful that is. And it's something that God's been dealing with me like so much, especially now, even lately in the last few months, do I've had to slow down on releasing music, honestly, to make sure that I'm honoring the gift and the power of music. And music is an opportunity to come back into alignment with the creator and to the highest version of yourself.
Mm.
And that's what I'm getting to. That's even what Just King means. Is it's not just because it sounds cool. It's being just means to be upright, to be righteous, and to be a king, is someone that blesses, someone that inspires, someone that is a servant really
Hmm.
to the people that they've been assigned to.
Mm.
So yeah, I take that responsibility, and I don't take it lightly, that my music is supposed to build people up, make them better. It's supposed to make me better. It's been making me better because it makes me see myself more clearly as the man that I am and what my responsibility is. So when it's all said and done, I do want people to say that my music helped them evolve to who
Mm.
they are. We're not doing low vibrational music, and it's so tempting to do it. Honestly, it's very tempting, because that's what you see is selling low vibrational music, but we're called to vibrate higher. So if that's not for you, that's fine. Well, that actually just says what it is then.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what I'm getting to, and it's taking some time, but I'm aiming to speak truth and to build people up with my music. And in in that process, I'm being built up too, because I
Hmm.
have to constantly be checked every day. And right now, the last few months, I've been checked like every day.
Mm. Mm. It's interesting when I hear people talk about vibrating higher. Um, it usually involves community too. So I appreciate the fact that you expounded upon that, because I found that very interesting, to be a part of your bio and to say it upright and out loud. A lot of people are timid or uncomfortable, being their true authentic selves. And so I think, folks like yourself who are musicians who offer up things that do affect our conscious, do affect our hearing, do affect our vibrations, you acknowledging that is so incredible. And I think I wanted you to talk more about it because I want the people that who are watching, when they go through and they see your discography and they see your about, they see that first, because I think that speaks volumes. And then I think it takes you right into your music, which is really different and really special. I'm going to get into some of the songs right now.
For sure.
Really enjoyed, and I want to talk about them. So obviously, we have "Get You Right" off Dominion, "I'll Fly" with Bilal, "Call It" with Camila, "Want Me Now" with Kingsley Abeneshi. Is that how you pronounce it?
Ibn Eche,
Ibaneshe, okay, Marcus Hill and Marquise Hill.
Marquis Hill, yeah.
And then "Do You Know How I Feel," Just King Jones alone. So I want to talk about "Do You Know How I Feel." So I was looking at the artwork or the photograph that's affiliated with the song on Spotify, and it has the crown. And you just look very assured and confident. And then you go right into the music. And tell me about the creation of that song. What message was meant to be delivered with that song?
Woo, yeah. So if I'm being honest, open, and transparent with you guys, that song was birthed. I wrote it after a car ride with my brother during the pandemic. When we couldn't go outside, all you could do was like, dang, well, let's just drive somewhere. You know, Jersey. Um, and we're just having a heart to heart, me and my younger brother, and this is a year after his girlfriend passed.
I'm
You know,
sorry.
yeah, and he was young. Like they were both 18 when she
Mm,
passed,
mm,
and she was a sister to me. Um, and so we're like a year past. I'm just like checking in, like, yo, how are you doing? Honestly, bro,
mhm,
how are you doing? And so we're driving, and we're having a heart to heart, And one thing that did come to my like spirit in that moment during the car ride is well, the title, of course, Do You Know How I Feel, but like also that I am my brother's keeper. That's really what that song is about. I am my brother's keeper. We're very close. And we're listening to some like different dancehall and Afrobeats in the car too, like vibing. He was driving, I'm just in the car. And anyways, after the car, we're probably driving for an hour. I come back inside to the crib and I just sit down at the piano, and that's what came out. It's an instrumental track,
mm,
2 chords, super simple,
mhm,
and it was inspired from that moment, that hour, and then I probably wrote that song in another hour. Chords, picked up the saxophone, and then maybe a few weeks later, I called the squad over to the studio and we recorded it. That was my first time. That recording was my first time playing with people after like months.
mm,
This was during the pandemic, so I hadn't played with people. Last like show we did was like we did the Blue Note, and I hadn't seen the homies since then.
mhm,
And so we're at the crib, we're playing basketball, and then we come inside and we just record. You know, there's video from a recording and everything, but I didn't put it out because we were really just chilling. I didn't think it was gonna become anything. We just were recording, so that's what the song is about. In terms of sound wise, I was mixing like a modern Afrobeat with an acoustic jazz kind of vibe. So if you hear the whole song is acoustic, but the drum like pattern is really off of that modern
mhm,
Afrobeats
mhm,
rhythm, and that's what like people say is the hook outside of the saxophone vibe. And I honestly didn't think it was gonna be one of them songs that like everybody loved. I just recorded, but everybody heard it and like there's something special about this.
mhm.
And that's the song. I even re-recorded it and put out another version of that song, but it didn't do what the original version did.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, sometimes things are just left just because when you put out something that is organic, right? And this is just my point of view. When I listen to music, you can tell when something is so pure and so just this is what it was at that moment. Um, that makes all the difference in the world, and the people that are consuming this music in the way that they do, when it resonates with them in such a high way, there's no reason to remix it, there's no reason to do it over. It is perfect as it is. And that was one of the songs that I was listening to pretty frequently actually in my car, when I had to go back and forth to New York. So yeah, so that was one of the things I wanted to find out. I was like, how did that come about? Because it was just real like flowy and real. I don't know how to explain. It just feels good.
yeah,
Yeah. So the other song I wanted to talk about was "Call It" with Camilla.
okay, for sure.
Camilla's voice is very distinct. Her voice is like a butterfly to me. It has she has these ebbs and flows, and there's nothing that sounds like she's forcing it. It just freaking just makes me feel so amazing. How did you and Camilla meet? And how did this song come about?
How do we meet? I think we probably met at New Blue on a Monday night.
All right, because they had the producers night, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where like there's so many people, especially in New York, that I don't remember like that I have strong relationships with that I actually don't remember meeting because of we just see people so many times and you don't know when it really started.
Right.
So it was like that. But when we were making the record, Genghis Don produced that record. I don't know if you know him.
Mm.
Um, he produced half of that album, Dominion.
Mm.
And particularly, it was his idea to bring in Camilla. And I was like, bet, yeah, I love her. And that song is really about a breakup and an end of a relationship, you know? And Camilla really like, because I'm a very like private person. I actually don't like to talk about my feelings and all that. Maybe in my music a little bit, but she was asking all the questions that I didn't want her to ask. You know, when she wrote that song, you know, I think we're on the phone one night, and this is like while it was going on.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
Things were actually good when we started talking about the song, and I think like the second conversation we had about the song, she's like, "No, this is what the song is about now." So
Mm.
yeah, that's what it's about, and yeah, that's why it's called it because we did
Yeah.
call it, and that
Yeah.
was the end. So
Yeah. She
it's a
did this.
special record.
I'm sorry.
It's a special record for sure.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
she definitely did the song justice. You know, when I spoke to her, and I've seen her probably two times since I actually had the interview with her. I actually saw her performing with Nicole Ray
Okay.
um, at the Sultan Room in Brooklyn, which was just freaking amazing. But you know, just in talking with her, her candor. She's not one to really mince words. She's very straightforward. Um, that is, I think, what makes her even more special. And when I heard this song and I heard you playing on it, I was like, wow, this is something that I could listen to over and over again because everything was just so evenly keeled. It just really, really flowed well. So shout out to Camila. Shout out to Genghis. I mean, the album itself is absolutely amazing. For those of you who are not familiar, it is called Dominion. You must check it out. You will have, there's like, to me, there's something for everybody on that. So then the next one I wanted to get into was not on Dominion, but I'll Fly. Um,
That is on Dominion actually.
is it?
Hmm.
Why is it separate?
We released it as a single first, so it may,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay. So now this was an interesting song for me. When I listened to it, it sounded like chanting to me. Tell me about working on Bilal with this song.
Okay, chanting. Ah, so we actually did this song remotely during the pandemic. He was where was he? He was in Morocco when this was going on, and we did this song and the I'll Fly, like that whole concept really was his idea
Mm-hmm.
to put it into it. But it was an amazing experience to create with a legend,
Mm-hmm.
a pioneer of a sound.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I'm still like unpacking the record because I know such a timeless record. I know I could say
Mm-hmm.
that this is a record of mine that I know will be remembered forever,
Mm-hmm.
like after I'm gone,
Mm-hmm.
after he's gone. And when I say I'm still processing what the song is really about and its significance, I don't think that I fully know why the link happened.
Mm.
I'm being honest, but I'm interested to see how the song unfolds. The revelation from the song.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something spiritual that I'm still waiting to understand when it comes to the song.
Hmm.
if that's answering your question.
Well, I mean, but so when I said chanting, it made me feel like there was some spiritual calling on this song. Um, I have never heard his voice in the way it's presented on this song. At first, I was like, wait a minute, is this Bilal? Because it sounded so different to me, in that, again, it was almost as if um, it was out of this world. Like it was just, like I said, it was this whole, it seemed like not that he was actually chanting, but it felt like he was sequestering something. Um, and I don't feel that in a lot of songs. In this song, I really felt like that. The musicality, of course, on your part brought that out. And then his voice on top of that, I'm like, this is an interesting mix. So I had to ask, like, what that was like. I've never met Bilal. Of course, I've seen interviews and I've listened to his music. And he's also another one who is intricate in what he does and how he produces. So listening to what you contributed to that was just amazing. So kudos to you, because that song I think is going to be timeless, and I think people will be unpacking that for a while.
Yeah, it's to me, it's like reminiscent of like even like a Marvin Gaye record, you know, of how easy it is on the ears and like the place it puts you,
Hmm.
because it's really like a meditative and reflective song, but also prophetic as to like what is to come.
Hmm.
So I'm an advocate of less is more. So that's all I'm gonna say about that record.
All right. Now let's talk about Get You Right. So when I listened to that, I definitely got that whole Afro beats vibe, and the hook was one of those that would make you want to keep saying it. And talk to me about how you come up with the writing aspect or the lyric aspect of these songs when you're creating them, and why that song. Because I don't there's maybe I think maybe the power is the other one that may sound kind of Afro beatish, but tell me about creating that song, and making it, I won't say making it for this album, but eventually becoming a part of this album.
Yeah. So in terms of this song, I mean, when we wrote it, this it wasn't even supposed to be on the album, honestly.
Mm.
And you can hear the sonic difference
Hmm.
for sure. Um, because I made this song a year after I made the Dominion. Honestly, Dominion was sitting for a while, and the vibe was just so strong from the song that it was a last minute decision to place it and take and remove another song.
Mm.
And really, I want people to dance and to feel good, and it's a love song, and it ended up becoming my anthem. You know,
Hmm.
it's one of those songs when I perform it live that people always sing along to. It's catchy and it's really a feel good song. You know, that's what island music is really about, feeling good. And it's a song about everlasting love, that we're gonna make this last for life. So it's one of them like romance songs. You know, that's what we Jamaican dudes do sometimes. Sometimes.
That is hilarious. So I am half Jamaican, half Bayesian.
Word.
Yes.
Yo, say no more. My grandma's half Jamaican, half Bayesian.
Yeah. So my father's side was Jamaican, my mother's side was
Oh,
Bayesian, and sprinkle a little Caucasian up in there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this is why. So although I have not, I'm a fan of the older Jamaican music, like Night Nurse and those, right, those types of songs. I actually had the great opportunity to interview Miss Pat Chin, uh,
Okay. Ooh.
EE Records, and I will eventually air that one day. But when I heard it, Get You Right, I was like, this is about right. Like, but if you notice, I said in the beginning of my question, I noticed that's different from the others, because I listen to stuff, and when I listen to stuff, what I hope for is a story, right, throughout the album. And in any album or EP, there should be, again, ebbs and flows, highs and lows, fun and sad and love and, uncertainty. And so while it was a last minute decision, I like the fact that that opened up the album. It kind of gave you a little oomph. Um, and for Caribbean people who love, this sort of music, this mix, this grab, that was on time. So, that was a great idea to, even though it was last minute, great idea to throw it on the album. I'm not sure what you took off for it, but I feel like this whole album gives an opportunity for everyone to choose a favorite and then to actually enjoy the entire album itself. So when you were creating Dominion, talk to me about the thought process, the package, if you will, that you wanted to present to the masses.
Yeah, it's really a crossover album.
Mhm.
If you listen to my first record, Standing in the Vision, it's bringing me from one space into the next space while still staying connected. It's just a more um, flushed out version of what I was creating. Even if you go back to my very first single, Dear Lord, there's
Mhm.
a
Oh,
connection.
Lord, I love Dear Lord, but go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. It's different ways of saying the same thing, really.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
jazz, R&B, and like Caribbean elements.
Hmm.
Almost all my songs have that.
Hmm.
It's just how am I mixing up the pot in that specific song.
Hmm. Yeah.
Or sometimes some of it doesn't like have any like Caribbean stuff at all, especially in Dominion.
Hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's really just a way of getting like everything that's in me out.
Hmm.
And that was part of the process. Even when it came to choosing how many songs, there were 8 songs on the record on Dominion, but we decided to go with 7 songs. Seven's the number of completion.
Mm, indeed.
And something for some reason, like the album just wouldn't come out because I had 8 sitting on it for a minute. And when I decided to take one song off, we're like, all right, cool, we're ready now, let's go. And we did. On the 7th day, God rested. So 7. I'm into numbers sometimes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I actually just got a book on numbers. Interesting. But yeah, so I think, again, the idea of it all is that you were able, when you said crossover, ding ding, it makes absolute sense, right? If you want to get all of your flavors, all of what you have to offer out to the masses, you create a well-rounded album like this one. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed the other singles. Dear Lord is something that um I've listened to, excuse me, I've listened to, um, it, I don't even know how to explain it, but in the weirdest ways, um, at the weirdest times, I'll listen to certain things, and so Dear Lord is one of them. Um, I was just listening to a musician. I want to say his name is a gent. He does guitar, but it's a different type of guitar.
Okay.
And I'm gonna send you his stuff, and you tell me
Please
what you.
do.
He's he vibrates higher. Love him. Yazara's another one who she's amazing, and I think you've heard of her. She is in the whole. I hate the term neo soul, but neo soul realm. Also, just beautiful people, beautiful music. I feel like you are on the come up. I feel like there's so much more in store for you. I'm just really looking forward to what you have next. Um, I would love to see you do another song with Camilla, because she's just so amazing. But there's so many amazing artists out here for you. Is there somebody in particular that you've wanted to? I mean, 'cause first of all, let me start with, it's a hell of a way to really get out there and be working with folks like Lauryn Hill and Wyclef and, Bilal. That's a hell of a start. So, and Yasin, let me not forget Yasin and Talib. But is there someone in particular or any other artist that you really are like, I gotta get something with them. I gotta create something with them.
There's so many artists, honestly. Right now I'm feeling like I want to work with a lot of artists in Jamaica right now.
Mm.
Um, for what I'm doing next, um, like coffee or popcorn.
Mm.
Um, that's really what I'm hearing right now. That's just the space that I'm
Mm-hmm.
exploring until it's time to not explore that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's such a long list, honestly, that I'll be going forever.
Right. Well, the
Yeah.
first what you gave me is good because that's more immediate for you. So, I think that was the perfect answer. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to whatever it is that you because then you snuck in the piano that I was just playing the piano, so now you're flute, clarinet, saxophonist, piano. Don't pull anything else out on me, JustKing, okay?
I won't.
And you sing. So I mean, all of these things are just so dope. I know people. There are people who would envy and would love to have all of those different attributes and be able to contribute in the way that you do. So number one, I just want to say thank you because you have definitely given me something different to listen to and to add to my musical palette. This has been an amazing conversation. Do me a favor, just tell everybody where they can find you, your music, and any touring information that you may have coming up. Go ahead and share that with everybody.
Yeah, so the best way is justkingjones.com, Instagram, Just King Jones, TikTok, Just King Jones, YouTube, Spotify and Apple Music, of course. I think I'm the most active on Instagram, probably. Um, of course, you can check my Bands in Town or Songkick page to see where I'm playing. We're gonna add some tour dates soon, I'm sure. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And we've got a single coming out June 16th.
What's the name
uh,
of it?
Roses featuring Marie Monty.
Mm.
And yeah, that's a special record. Because that sample that I built the rhythm off was actually from Do You Know How I Feel?
Mm.
Like that's something I've gotten into is sampling. And yeah, so it's a connection, an homage to Do You Know How I Feel, but completely reimagined.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you get to sample yourself, which is I love, right?
Yeah, well,
Good.
that's what they do. They sample jazz records. So I was like, wait, I have jazz records, so let me just sample myself.
Right.
And I'm gonna keep doing that, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Listen, the dividends pay high for that. That's how you're supposed to do it. And it's another celebratory way to recognize your music and what it is that you do and to expose other people to it. So I love the story behind that. I'm looking forward to the next single. Of course, I'm on Instagram. We ear hustling, baby. When it's ready, send it to me. I will premiere it. Hey, listen, I'm looking forward to everything that God has in store for you. I appreciate you. You definitely have to come back again. For
For
those who
sure.
joined us this evening, I want to say thank you. This is another episode of We Ear Hustling, baby. I am Newbie the Ear Hustler, and tonight's amazing guest was JustKing Jones, incredible saxophonist, multi-instrumentalist, singer, songwriter, on his way up, up, up. And hey, don't forget me when Yasiin is performing. I need to be there.
All right, we'll make it happen for sure.
I appreciate you.
All
Everybody have a blessed evening and we'll talk soon. Peace.
right, peace.